Welcome back to another episode of the Blogger Breakthrough Summit podcast, where I share snippets from our annual virtual summit. And I'm your host, Liz Stapleton. Today we're diving into why mindset and strategy actually might be getting in your way. Yeah, you heard me right. I'm going to go ahead and let Michelle Ponvert explain why sometimes, but just sometimes, all that mindset and strategy stuff is a bit overinflated. Let's dive in.
Okay, let's get started. So why the mindset and strategy stuff can sometimes get in the way. So particularly in this online business world, but honestly in most places where we're trying to build something on our own, a lot of weight and a lot of energy, time, money gets invested in helping you master your mindset, like get yourself in the right space mentally. And then figuring out, scoring the right strategy, figuring out the how to do things the right way. And both of those are super important parts of building a business ultimately. But I'm going to take devil's advocate here today and argue that they aren't actually the big piece that you should be focusing on most of the time to get to your version of success. Basically, I think they're a bit overinflated, and I'm here to kind of share why I think they get overinflated. So here's what I see, and I'm 100% guilty of this too, so don't worry. Here's what I see happening as most people try and build their business or grow as they've actually got a business started. So you have an idea. It's an idea you're super excited about and you love it. You want to get started like yesterday. And these can be all sorts of ideas. I'm talking about things as small as like a piece of content you want to create and something as big as a whole new offer, even the direction of your business. But there is a spark. Something has lit you up. And then what happens usually is we start to have some wobbles. We start to feel some feelings about this idea and start to maybe question ourselves, wondering if our audience, the people we have looking at what we're doing, maybe won't like it. Maybe you don't even have enough people in your audience anyway to pull this thing off. Maybe if it doesn't work, you could have wasted your time, which is something you're very conscious of as a solo business owner. And definitely if you've got other big life stuff going on, like I do and a lot of people in my world do. Maybe some inferiority complex comes in and we start to worry that we're not qualified to do the thing in the first place. And that maybe even someone might judge you for doing it. You get the idea. Basically, we get stuck in this like analysis paralysis space where we're just worried and anxiously questioning the idea. And all of that great momentum you'd built up with the spark, the idea, kind of stops. It just grinds to a halt as we start to dive into those big, big questions, start to question our mindset, question our strategies. And some of those things are super valid. I don't want to like bash mindset work. I don't want to bash strategy. Those are really important and valid. And some of these questions are important and valid. I personally struggle a lot with rejection sensitive dysphoria. And I know a lot of this, even if it isn't the scale that maybe we feel it at, is still coming from somewhere real. But what happens, regardless of how real or not those questions are, is that we kind of put a pause on the idea to start working on some of this bigger stuff, to examine those strategies, work on the mindset, and sometimes, often, start to outsource the decision-making of whether to do this idea and how to do this idea to other people. And this is where we often see people getting stuck in using other people's frameworks, going through a lot of working on ourselves, working on the big picture, and it pulls you out of actually doing the doing. And often this comes from, again, really understandable places. This comes from those bigger picture questions sometimes seeming safer or smarter or just easier in a weird way than actually doing the hard thing and doing the doing. Because what you're creating, what your idea is unknown. And sometimes we can't know it. How it's going to turn out is something unknowable until we've tried it. And that's really scary, especially if you have other life stuff going on, if you've lived a life that causes you to question things, or if you been born with a brain that tells you to question things. And the result of all of this questioning is that you can kind of start talking yourself out of the idea and fall out of love with it. And you'll start to see the cracks, see the potential pitfalls, see the work you maybe need to do on yourself, the things you need to learn, the things you need to do before you can actually do the doing of this very first spark of an idea. And ultimately, what truly ends up happening is nothing. Sure, you may be working on some big, big stuff, really working on like figuring yourself out, figuring out your big picture. But let's get to like brass tacks. Nothing's happening to move that idea forward. And you won't have created anything new. People won't know about it, so you won't know if they're going to like it. And we don't ultimately know if it's going to work. We've just been thinking. And after all of this, I feel like most of the time, and myself very much included, you start to feel even more stuck now because you've added these extra hurdles in your way of doing the doing and moving forward. Basically, by trying to outthink ourselves, we actually kind of get in our way of doing things to show ourselves what's possible and what could happen. So I don't love sitting in the negative. So let's like flip the switch, and I'm going to talk about what can happen when we start leaning into just taking action. And that's like honestly the point of all of this, is that like we can't get anywhere without trying, without doing something. If you sit still, a body in motion will keep moving. If you sit still, it's very unlikely that things are going to move forward for you, particularly move forward in a way that you want them to. So that's why I'm here to advocate for, cheerlead that first gut reaction, that step one I mentioned, the spark, the excitement, the motivation, the momentum that sometimes comes with the new and the shiny. I am like a big fan of chasing the shiny. In my joint business with my business bestie, created entirely on a whim, we have a membership called the Shiny Squirrel Chasers. I'm not going to hide. I love me some shiny, but it's because ultimately behind that shiny, behind that excitement is movement. It is momentum, and it is something that helps you take action. And taking action is truly the only way to make things happen in your business. They're not going to happen for you. Now, I know that doesn't come as easily for some of us as it does for others. And it's super understandable. As I said, we've all lived lives, we've got experiences, traumas, and neural pathways that have taught us to mask, to shrink, to hide, to play it safe, because we needed to stay safe as people. But as business owners, we do need to step out of being the squishy humans that we are sometimes and start putting our CEO hats on and start deciding what we want to do with this business that we control, that we get to decide, and how do you want to change that?
All right, that's it for today. Remember, it's about doing the doing. Take the first step, chase that shiny idea, and let the momentum carry you forward. Don't let overthinking paralyze you. Your version of success is waiting on the other side of action. Be sure to join me next time to learn about guest blogging from a pro copywriter.